Yo, Big D, ready to talk all things Texans, Chiefs, Bears, Packers, Steelers, Ravens, college football playoff, and Lord knows what else on the Drive to Top Productions, Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube pages. Also check me out, Dylan Schmittler, SCHMITTLE, like a rapping on Facebook, Spunky Spectrum Sports on YouTube, Twitch, the Big D 3300, and Twitter at Dylan S Sports 1. See it right here. Here, you would think I'd be talking all things Jags with what we're doing lately, but no. Although we're 9-4 leading the AFC South, darn you Texans for winning last night. But any case, yeah, Sunday Night Football. Everyone wanted to see Houston and Kansas City, and when you see a great fighter at the end of his or her prime, you know when that fighter has taken one too many hits. And last night, I think we saw a fighter, that being the Chiefs, get knocked out. Frankly, this Kansas City dynasty has been incredible, whether you like it or not. I mean, 7 AFC championship game appearances, 5 Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowl championships, and the only 2 non-Super Bowl appearances Kansas City lost in overtime. But this Kansas City dynasty is over. And last night proved that. I mean, Houston won the game 20-10, and frankly, it didn't even look that competitive. I mean, Patrick Mahomes with the worst completion percentage of his career, 3 interceptions, and frankly, Kansas City just looks like a tired football team. And meanwhile, Houston looks like a team, especially defensively, that scares the living bejeebers out of anyone. But I'll talk about the Chiefs later, but I think people are underrating the Houston Texans. D'Amico Ryans is not Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, Ben Johnson as a young offensive-minded coach. But he's a heck of a defense winner. He and Seattle's coach Mike McDonald, probably the best young defensive head coach in the game. And what Houston can bring defensively, I mean, my goodness, the Texans have some dudes, and they're not afraid to hit people. Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter, one of the best pass rush duos in the league. Aziz Al-Shaair, I hope I said that right. Right? Yeah. Jackal fans remember that guy because he KO'd Trevor Lawrence last year, but hopefully that won't happen. Derek Stingley is a great corner, and Jalen Lattistier. I mean, the Texans have dudes everywhere on defense, and then offensively, Nico Collins. Anyone? I think he got over 100 yards and 2 catches last night, 4 for 121, and frankly, if Houston would have done anything in the second half, it could have been 150 or more, but yeah, we'll leave it at that. But, with CJ Stroud coming on second game off the country, and you wonder how he would be in the cold, and I thought Stroud, despite a low completion percentage, 15-31, made some timely throws. And one's the Collins, he got one, the big throw to Higgins. I mean, a touchdown to Woody Moss that was good. But I think people pick apart young quarterbacks. So like CJ Stroud was great 2 years ago, hasn't been the same since. But part of it is Houston's offensive line is not that great to begin with. And secondly, Texans don't have the same running game. I mean, Woody Moss ran the ball 26 times because the Texans don't have anyone else. I mean, Joe Mixon's not playing this year. Nick Chubb really didn't even play much. I mean, Woody Moss was basically Houston's running. And he didn't even average 3 yards a pop. But with Houston, Woody Marks, capable running back, especially pass catching guy from USC. So capable of that. And with Houston, I never thought the Texans will, even when the game was close, were never in trouble. Even when Kansas City tied up the third quarter, part of me thought, you know what, if if the Texans don't, what this game, Houston's not going to lose because Houston's got the better players, and it just shows when good teams draft guys and get guys and take advantage of a quarterback on a rookie deal. A team can get sort of really strong fast, and Houston won the division 2 straight years. Very possible of winning 3 straight. Sad but true. And a lot of people thought the Texans were dead. I'm not kidding. Were dead early in the year at what 0-3, and then 3-5. They were questioning whether or not C.J. Stroud had regressed, whether or not D'Amico Ryans might be in trouble, and then week 10 win in Jacksonville changed the season. The Texans lose that game, they're done. But come back from down 19, win that game, and now have won 5 straight. And it's not like the Texans have beaten all lollipops. They beat the Jags, the Bills, the Colts with Daniel Jones, and now the Chiefs. And I'm going to give credit to the Texans. I mean, Denver and Houston might have the best defense in the league. And I'm telling you this, I don't want to play the Texans in the first round because they will hit. If you're the Bills, I don't want to be in Houston. I'd much rather play. Be honest with you, I think I'd rather play the Patriots in Houston right now. That sounds counterintuitive. Now, does Houston have the best offensive line, the best running game? No. But with that defense, that quarterback, and a top 7-8 wide receiver, the Texans could beat a lot of teams, especially with right now. How would I? Yeah, all the good quarterbacks might miss the playoffs this year. I mean, Mahomes, Lamar, and Joe Burrow right now are not in the AFC playoffs. But let me tell you who is in position. 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers, Trevor Lawrence, C.J. Stroud, Justin Herbert, some guy named Josh Allen, and of course Drake May and Bo Nix. So not exactly Peyton Manning, Tom Brady circa 2000, or Big Ben circa 2009, but it's a wacky year in football. And I look at Houston. The reason why I was concerned about Houston last night, Houston plays the Cardinals and Raiders the next 2 weeks, and then plays Chargers in LA week 17 before facing the Colts. So the Texans play dome games the rest of the year. Meanwhile, the Jags play the Jets this weekend. Again, but then we go to Denver and Indianapolis, finish with the Titans. So maybe easier 15 and 18, but at Denver. And if the Jags go 3-1, lose in Denver, Houston wins out, Texans get the division. So, part of me, even though the rest of the NFL would probably say, Dylan, you're nuts. It'd probably say, part of me was like, I hope the Chiefs win because we need that buffer on the Texans. But fortunately, that didn't happen. But in a way, I'm not sure if there is a dominant team in the AFC. But the team that has dominated the AFC over the past 7 years isn't going to do so this year. In fact, this is the first time in 10 years that the Kansas City Chiefs will not win the AFC West this year. And it's simple. Pat Mahomes didn't forget how to play football. Andy Reid didn't forget how to coach. Brett Veach didn't become a bad general manager. But this Kansas City Chiefs team is old. Travis Kelce dropped an easy pass last night that ended up becoming an interception. The Chief defensive line outside maybe Chris Jones, and I'm not sure he's what he was 4 or 5 years ago, cannot rush the quarterback. Kansas City cannot win one-score games, which Kansas City thrived in the last few years. And the Kansas City offensive line is nowhere near what it was 4 or 5 years ago. And despite Pat Mahomes being arguably the best quarterback in football, I mean, you could argue Josh Allen, you could argue anyone you want. The Kansas City Chiefs dynasty is over. And that's what made New England's dynasty so great, is that there were like two different runs. The dynasty with Tom Brady early, first 3 or 4 years, and then Tom Brady late, winning those 3 Super Bowls in the 20 teens. Kansas City right now needs linemen on both sides of the ball and a dominant running game. I mean, Pat Mahomes again was Kansas City's leading rusher last night. That's not going to work. You know, for whatever reason, Isaiah Pacheco is not getting the ball enough. Like, seemingly the Chiefs love Kareem Hunt, or even Brashard Smith's not really seeing the field. Kansas City needs line play and a speedier running back, because this team lacks energy. It lacks ideas. I mean, Rasheed Rice, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, this team lacks energy. And watching last night, I'm like, the Chiefs couldn't catch a cold in Alaska. Oh, my favorite terminology, the Chiefs couldn't hit water. They fell off a boat in the Gulf of America. And with the Chiefs, you have to wonder if Travis Kelce is playing his last few games in the NFL. I mean, dropped the pass against Philly, it would have been a touchdown, ended up becoming an interception. Dropped the pass last night, which ended up becoming an interception. I think Travis Kelce's getting toward the end of his career. A Hall of Fame career, a legendary career, but Travis Kelce's not what he was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago. I think Travis Kelce is done. And honestly, right now, I think the Chiefs have bigger issues. You know, Kansas City 6-7. The Chiefs have the same record as the Miami Dolphins. Yeah. And of course, Kansas City plays the Chiefs aren't going to win the AFC West this year, and they need a minor miracle to happen. Now, unfortunately, get the Chargers at Arrowhead next week, and then play the Titans, Denver, and then finish in Las Vegas. Thank you. So I'm 6-7 and not in the playoffs. I mean, I said before the year Denver was going to win the AFC West. I thought the Chiefs were old. I thought Kansas City's schedule was brutal. And turns out I might know a few things about football. I mean, it's just weird to me that Kansas City, despite having extra rest, lost to Denver and now lost to Houston. And unlike that New England dynasty, the Patriots never ran up against another great coach. There wasn't another Sean McVay or Joe Gibbs in the AFC East. Right now, the Chiefs have Sean Payton in Denver, Jim Harbaugh in LA. Guess what the Chiefs aren't going to do like New England did seemingly year after year? Sweep every team. New England could count on a minimum 4, 5, 6 wins in divisional games. Kansas City is not going to do that. That because Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh are every bit on Andy Reid's level. And B, you could argue, when healthy, the Chargers and Broncos have as good of rosters, if not probably better. maybe if the Chargers ever stayed healthy, but Denver's roster is certainly better. Now, Bo Nix is not as good of a quarterback, but Denver's roster with Benino and company certainly better than Kansas City's. So, who knows if Andy Reid's back, but changes will definitely come in Kansas City. The game everyone wanted to see yesterday, Bears Packers. Can we get Bears Packers every week? Because I want to see Ben Johnson and Matt LaFleur go at it. But on paper, most people would think, it's Packers win. So what? They're at home. They did this. I think it's funny you say a really good. You don't want to say losing because losing's, but that's as good of a loss as Chicago can have. I thought Chicago in the second half played really, really well. Caleb, the running game, Green Bay's defense really fatigued in the second half. But that was a heavyweight street fight, and both teams we've had. I mean, Christian Watson. I mean, I didn't think Christian Watson would play this year with tearing his ACL in the same game last year, but Christian Watson's made plays. He caught a couple touchdowns yesterday. 4 for 89 and 2 touchdowns. Bo Melton caught a long touchdown pass. Yeah, sorry, Matthew Golden and Romeo Dobbs. Bo Melton caught a long touchdown pass. And neither team ran the ball great. I mean, Josh Jacobs did get a touchdown that put Green Bay in front. But Jordan Love, a couple of weeks ago, everybody's like, we want Matt LaFleur fired. We want Jordan Love out of town. I'm like, Jordan Love's the top 5-6 quarterback in football right now. And by golly, Jordan Love looks like it. I mean, 17-25, 234, 3 touchdowns, and Jordan Love plays his best football when it matters most, December and January. And despite it being cold, despite Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady looking like they're getting ready for the Iditarod, no joke, Jordan Love showed his ability. And he's got a huge arm mobility. Might be a little erratic, but you see the growth and the maturity of Love. And frankly, I think we saw that a lot with Caleb Williams yesterday. Despite the late interception, I think Caleb showed a lot of craft and a lot of uniqueness. The touchdown to Loveland, a couple plays to Burden, Komet, Duvernay, Swift. I mean, Devin Duvernay caught a long pass, and he wasn't even the primary receiver. Duvernay's a special team guy. And, I think Chicago can look back on this game and say, we went toe-to-toe with the NFC's best or one of the NFC's best. And when these teams play in 12 days, that game's going to be at Soldier Field. So, that game could be just as big, if not bigger, because yesterday the Bears started the afternoon as the 1 seed and ended it as the 7 seed. Unfortunately for the Bears, or maybe unfortunately, to get the Packers, 49ers aligned. So a lot of Chicago's fate is in its destiny. And we'll see what happens with the Bears the last 3 weeks. Obviously, played Cleveland. And while Shadul looked great yesterday, there's, Cleveland's got some injuries, although the Bears will have to prepare for some guy named Myles Garrett. Meanwhile, the Packers, up there, 9-3-1. But, Green Bay's got Denver and Chicago on the road, the Ravens at home, and then go to Minnesota week 18. So not exactly the easiest schedule. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, but we've got a feisty rival. I mean, Green Bay, Chicago will always be a feisty rivalry, but these coaches and quarterbacks. Oh, did I mention rivalries? How about another good one? Steelers, Ravens. So, I guess Mike Tomlin's a pretty good underdog coach, but the both. I'm just going to answer. I'm going to objectively answer the question. Did Baltimore get screwed? Be honest with you, if you go by the letter of the rule book right now, it doesn't look like Isaiah Likely made it, completing the process of the catch. If you go by common sense and what you think football is, Isaiah Likely definitely caught a touchdown pass in the fourth quarter. Whether or not that was a touchdown pass or not, whether or not Aaron Rodgers legitimately caught a pass or it should have been a pick, whether or not who knows? But the Steelers do what they do better than anyone, win as a dog. Now, Pittsburgh's defense, not great again. I mean, gave up 420 yards, gave up 5.5 yards a play. Baltimore ran for over 200 yards. But, in a big game, I thought Aaron Rodgers played really well. I mean, DK Metcalf was huge, especially early, 7 for 148. Even saw DK Metcalf as a gunner on special teams. But, again, Pittsburgh's running game, nothing. I mean, Kenneth Gainwell did get a touchdown, but Pittsburgh barely averaged 2 yards per. But Baltimore's running game was big. Got over 200 yards. Derrick Henry for 94. Keenan Mitchell was great. Lamar more. So, but honestly, there are two issues with the Ravens one right now. One, the Ravens do not have a true number one receiver. Zay Flowers is not a true number one receiver. And two, Lamar won't admit it, but he's not 100%. It is clearly becoming, and it's not just me, but everyone watching football objectively can see Lamar is not 100%. And that's not going to work, especially for this proud franchise, that coach, that quarterback. The Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers this year are not legitimate Super Bowl contenders. And frankly, either team that wins the AFC North this year may win a playoff game, but Pittsburgh and Baltimore are not going to win the Super Bowl. And I think even Talman and Harbaugh would know it. I mean, Pittsburgh might be 7-6, but right now, I think Pittsburgh would be the one team I want to play in the first round. I don't want to play Houston. I don't want to play Josh Allen, the Bills. I don't want. I think Pittsburgh would be the team I play, even if the Steelers get a home game. I mean, the Steelers haven't won a home game since being Matt Moore a decade ago. So I just think question going to be asked about question going to be asked about the Ravens. This was supposed to be Baltimore's year, and right now they're outside the playoffs. Have 3 out of 4 on the road. They go to Cincinnati, play the Patriots at home, at Green Bay, and then at Pittsburgh again. I mean, I don't think the Ravens would fire Harbaugh, but who knows what happens in this AFC North. And by the way, it should be thanking a lucky stars the Bills came back to beat the Bengals. Otherwise, the Bengals are still in the AFC North race, but leave it at that. Now, I want to talk about the CFP College Football Playoff. I know what everyone will ask. What do you think about the committee's rankings? I think the committee got it right, but I think it took fault. But the committee should never have put Notre Dame and Miami in this big of a bind. When I saw Notre Dame, 8 spots in front of Miami, that confused me because Miami beat Notre Dame at Hard Rock Stadium. And head-to-head must matter. And the fact Miami was behind Notre Dame was befuddling. But the committee was really caught between a rock and a hard place. First off, why are there multiple spots for Tulane and James Madison? I understand Group of 5, then these teams won't have a lawsuit, blah 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 blah. But do we have the 12 best teams in college football right now? No. Notre Dame, BYU, Tech should be in the play. And right now, Notre Dame, BYU, and Brigham Young are screwed because the playoff doesn't have the 12 best teams. They have Tulane and James Madison. Congrats to James Madison for winning the Sun Belt and Tulane the American. But there's no way James Madison's beating Oregon at Autzen Stadium. And Ole Miss already beat Tulane. Now, who knows what happens about Lane Kiffin, but I don't know. We've already seen that game. I know Notre Dame can play up against some of these teams. Now, back to the Irish. I think Notre Dame's biggest problems in regards to making the playoff are a couple reasons. One, in Notre Dame's 2 biggest games of the year, they lost to Miami and Texas A&M. And then after that, Notre Dame's best wins against USC. Miami beat Notre Dame and A&M beat Notre Dame head-to-head. And frankly, that shouldn't matter. Whether or not A&M should be ranked in front of or behind Ole Miss because the Aggies coach is there or Lincoln's. I'm not going to get into that. But Notre Dame needs bigger games. And frankly, right now, you could argue Notre Dame should join a conference. Now, I don't think the Irish will because Notre Dame would lose out on all that NBC money. But the days of independence ruling college football ended. Even BYU's in the Big Ten. Miami's in the ACC. Teams should not be... I understand why Notre Dame would want to be independent. We want to control our schedule. I'm like, you basically play an ACC Big Ten schedule. We've seen rivalries go away. Bedlam went away, all these things. Heck, LSU and Alabama aren't even playing next year. But that's here and there. Notre Dame could still play. Navy could still play Purdue, will still play a couple of these traditional games every year. But Notre Dame has got to decide it's time. Join the ACC, join the Big Ten, SC, doesn't matter. Let's stop monkeying around with the schedule. Frankly, I think it's pathetic what's happened. You could argue the bowl season will be basically college football playoff and nothing else because we already know Notre Dame's opting out. Now, whether you agree with Notre Dame opting out of a bowl game because they're not in the playoff, understandable. And I know Notre Dame's pissed. And I think that the committee would have put Miami in front of Notre Dame. Notre Dame be frustrated. But I think the Irish would understand, hey, if we're behind Miami, okay, then head-to-head matters. And frankly, for the College Football Playoff Committee, I think the committee was painted in a very peculiar corner. Alabama didn't look good against Georgia, but Alabama also beat Georgia, and beat Vandy in the regular season. And the committee also couldn't and shouldn't punish Alabama for playing an extra game. It's not like Alabama's playing Wake Forest. Alabama lost to the number 3 team in the country. Miami and Notre Dame. The biggest problem with the rankings is that Miami was behind Notre Dame. How the committee could put Notre Dame in front of Miami when Miami beat Notre Dame, it's like a 2000 BCS formula right now where, for whatever reason, Florida State was in front of Miami, but Miami beat Florida State, so somebody explain them apples. But, do I agree with Notre Dame skipping a bowl game? No. Do I think the bowls will eventually cease? Quite possibly. Who knows? I think we should have been playing first round games. But if Alabama gets left out of the playoff, guess what? Conference championship won't matter. If Miami's left out of the playoff, then teams aren't going to play big time non-conference games. You could argue in many ways Texas is left out of the playoff because of the Longhorns playing Ohio State. You could argue Notre Dame is left out of the playoff because of playing Texas A&M. That shouldn't happen. But, this should be something where. And one other tidbit two other tidbits we found out recently. Going from next year onward, if Notre Dame's in the top 12, the Irish are in the playoff. And something where I think all 4 Power 4 champs are in the playoff no matter what. Because the fact that Duke won the ACC threw this monkey wrench everywhere. How is James Madison in the playoff but not Notre Dame? I think that's the question we should be looking. But because you could argue Notre Dame should be going to Oregon and not James Madison. But I don't know. It's a weird time in college football. Alabama going to Oklahoma and yet the title favorites. I think Miami's a 4.5 point dog in College Station. So that's going to be interesting. Heisman's. Indiana won the Big Ten for the first time since '67 and outright since '45. Indiana will be playing in its first Rose Bowl since facing O.J. Simpson and USC 1968. And I'm not even looking at Google. I'm just looking here on StreamYard. So, congrats Indiana, Georgia, all the teams for making the playoff. I'll get more in depth with that. Hopefully I'll have some guests with me. But, crazy chaos brought all kinds of shenanigans. Maybe we should nickname the ACC the Atlantic Chaotic Conference. In any case, this is the Big D. Signing off for now. By the way, I like Eagles -2.5 or -3 against the Bolts. 10 days to prepare and a healthier quarterback, healthier quarterback. But yeah, Jalen Hurts healthier than Justin Herbert. Who would have thought that? Week 14. Week 14. But this is Dylan signing off for now.